If the Dallas Cowboys are going to pull off the upset of the decade, century, whatever time period you want, they're going to need to do these three things. We'll tell you what they are next.
You are Locked On Cowboys, your daily Dallas Cowboys podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome back to the Locked On Cowboys podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. We'd like to thank you for making us your first listen of the day. I am your host, Marcus Mosher. Joining me today, as always, is Landon McCool. And on today's show, we are previewing the Packers-Cowboys Sunday night football matchup here in week 4. And rather than just doing our regular Friday preview, we've got something different in store for you guys today. We're going to talk about how the Cowboys can pull off a huge upset. Right now, they are 7-point underdogs at home in this matchup against their former guy, Micah Parsons. I want to start with the Cowboys defense here, Landon, because that's really the biggest David versus Goliath matchup.
Yeah.
How do the Cowboys stop Jordan Love and the Packers?
Yeah, they're going to have to find a way to do what they have not done previously, and that's get after the quarterback, with four-man fronts and play zone coverage behind. Because the truth is like you look at there's been all the discourse that we've had with the Cowboys defense and how they need to mix it up and how they need to do this and that. I think when you look at what Jordan Love does well, right, it's. I went to go look at the numbers because obviously it feels like the Cowboys are playing a ton of zone, and I wanted to see how Jordan Love performed against zone coverage, right? And it's a real roller coaster if you look at it. In one sense, he has a 75% completion percentage, and he's averaging 9.8 yards per attempt in zone coverage. That's crazy, right? And you compare that to man coverage, where he's at 60% at 7 yards per attempt, which is also, especially the 7 yards per attempt, it's pretty decent, right? However, if you dig deeper, right, with the zone rate, he's only at a 39.8 success rate. Now, success rate again measures your ability on a per snap basis, depending on down and distance, to achieve a certain amount of yards on first down, a certain amount of yards a second down, all towards trying to achieve a first down, right? And he's only he's got a 39.8% success rate versus a 53.5% success rate versus man, which is a huge noticeable difference. So the Cowboys kind of need to play the game that they're playing, right? Like he has twice the success rate versus man coverage, and every time you've put yourself in man coverage, you've been burnt. There's a reason you haven't been playing it as much. So, more zone is fine as if you can get pressure up front with Jordan Love on Jordan Love. The question is, can you do that? And I think it's an interesting matchup that way.
Well, and let's dive into that a little bit because the Cowboys are going to be without 2 starting offensive linemen, right? Cooper Beebe and Tyler Booker. But the Packers could be without 3 starting offensive linemen. So let's run through this a little bit. Zach Tom, their right tackle, who is pretty easily their best offensive lineman. Mm-hmm. He's already been ruled out. He is not playing this week. His backup, Anthony Belton, was limited on practice on Wednesday, did not practice on Thursday. And there's a lot of people that don't believe he's going to play on Friday. And that makes this really hard as to who's going to play right tackle. I think it's going to be Darian Kennard, who's really a guard, but that's going to be probably his spot. Their big free agent addition, Aaron Banks, who they got from the 49ers. He's actually struggled quite a bit this year. Yeah. He's did not practice, not expected to play. And that's going to put a guy that actually we like quite a bit, Jordan Morgan from Arizona at left guard. Now, Morgan's been working almost exclusively at tackle. At left tackle during training camp, and he's been having to bounce around a little bit. He's played guard in the first couple of weeks of the season, and he's actually one of PFF's lowest graded guards. So they're going to be down multiple offensive linemen. And again, I know the Cowboys don't have a great pass rush, but this feels like a game with a lot of new players. If Kenny Clark and Osa Digizua can win up front, they'll give you a chance.
Yeah, and again, I don't think we can, impress upon folks enough that having Bland and Diggs play, and again, every week away from this, you hope that Diggs is getting a little bit better. But honestly, you can limit the blast area just by maybe rotating Diggs and some of the other guys that you have in there, and just to kind of work everybody in. You're probably going to need to do the same thing with Bland, but just having one more competent cover guy, I think, could make a huge difference here. And I also think, again, the difference in the quarterback play for Jordan Love when he's under pressure versus when he's not under pressure is significant. I mean, he is basically the 7-on-7, flag football king. If he's not under pressure, he's the guy that you want. But if you can get him under pressure, he can be a high variance quarterback. I mean, I just kind of quoted you the numbers that we saw with zone coverage, and then you add in pressure to that. That's really where that's where you have his interception. I think he's taken 5 sacks versus zone coverage versus 1 sack versus man coverage. So he obviously can get rattled, and then he can make mistakes. He's not like a classic failure kind of guy who just crumbles under pressure, but you're certainly going to have a better chance against Jordan Love with him under pressure than just letting him have a clean pocket and dropping 8 guys or something.
And one of the things I want to know in this game is, does Matt Eberflus lean on the 4-man rush against an offensive line that's got a lot of moving parts? Or because you have so many guys, do they try to stunt more? Do they try to blitz more just to try to confuse them?
Maybe not blitz, because obviously that's been a thing with him in general, but stunts. I think twists and stunts are going to be a heavy part of this game. Look, I mean, the Packers offense has not been great so far as a rushing football team, right? I think they've had their lowest success rate in the last few years. I think it was something like 35% success rate in the run game, whereas normally it's up above 40%. And what you worry about with some of these stunts and twists are giving up big plays. If you're willing to sacrifice the run game specifically, because your fits aren't quite as right, if you're willing to sacrifice some of that opportunity cost, and you throw some twists on a group that struggled last week with this as well, you add in all the injuries and all the moving pieces and all the communication that it requires in order to pass stunts properly, you wonder if that isn't a really great way to get pressure right into Jordan Love's face and to potentially get some surprises on him, which, again, that's only going to help your chances here.
One more thing. They're not full strength on the offensive line, but they're not full strength at wide receiver either. Now, Green Bay has more wide receiver depth than any team in the league. But at least going into the season and after the first 2 games of the year, Jaden Reed was the de facto number 1 receiver. He had collarbone surgery and a Jones fracture surgery at the same time. He's out. Christian Watson, who is their deep threat, he is out. So that means they're going to rely on Matthew Golden, a guy that we talked about a lot during the pre-draft process, who's still pretty green. Romeo Doubs, who's going to play on the outside. He's more of a big body possession guy. And then there's Dontavian Wicks, who is probably one of the most high variance receivers in the league. He can get open. He makes plays after the catch, doesn't always catch the ball. It's not like this is the most loaded receiver room in the league. And yes, the Cowboys coverage is very up and down, but with a shaky offensive line and receivers who might not be ready for this primetime moment, there's a gleam here for the Cowboys.
Yeah, I mean, again, I think, look, we'll talk about it in the next segment, but I think a huge part of winning this football game is going to be about your offense possessing the football and just limiting opportunities for the Packers. And the hope is that, the less exposure that you put your defense out there, the less chance for, enormous play after play after play. And then you can, you add up the variance by blitzing maybe a little bit more, doing some of the twists that we talked about. So the hope is that you can get the Packers a couple different times in a situation where they're uncomfortable, they make a mistake, you take advantage, and then as the game goes on, if you're able to possess the ball on offense, they lose opportunity cost. Maybe that makes them desperate. Maybe that makes them try things a little bit more, and again, that ups the variance, which for the Cowboys defense, that's what you're looking for. You want variance.
We want random. We want weird things to happen. And honestly, that's the thing. You want the flow of this game to feel very choppy, right? No. That actually favors the Cowboys, and that's how they're going to have to try to win this one. So let's talk about the Cowboys offense, because honestly, that's the most important thing here. If the Cowboys offense can do their job, they're going to be right into this game going into the fourth quarter. We'll get to that unit next. This episode is brought to you by Square. Your favorite neighborhood spots run on Square. There are certain businesses that truly make the neighborhood feel like home, whether it's that local sports bar that's packed on game days, or the corner coffee shop that knows your order by heart, or the little restaurant that's by my house that has the absolute best pizza. These are the places that bring people together. When the neighborhood businesses thrive, the whole neighborhood thrives. I love going to this little restaurant. It's less than a mile from my house. They've got the best pizza that you can order by the slice. They've got the absolute best sandwiches, hoagies, subs, whatever you want to call it. And they run their business on Square. It just makes your day better when you walk in there, you get a slice of pizza, and you leave and you say hi to everybody. And Square is a proud partner of more than 4 million neighborhood businesses around the world. You can go to square.com/go/locked-on to learn more. But before you do, go support your favorite neighborhood spot, whether that's that coffee shop or that local restaurant, and you'll be happy that you did. Square, see you in the neighborhood. This episode is brought to you by DoorDash. It's almost the weekend. It's time to look back and crown this week's MVP on Who Delivered, powered by DoorDash. Just like you can win every Saturday with DoorDash streaks, saving more every time that you order. These players delivered when it mattered the most, so let's break it down. For this week, I'm actually going with Tyler Booker. Went back and watched the tape. He was phenomenal for the Cowboys. It's a bummer that he's going to miss the next 4 or so games, but it really feels like he's started to turn a corner and become the player that we all envisioned when the Cowboys drafted him in round 1. That performance wasn't a fluke. Tyler Booker is officially on a streak. And just like Tyler Booker delivered for the Cowboys in week 3, DoorDash delivers your Saturdays. And with DoorDash streaks, you save on every Saturday order, stack it up all season long, and you could save up to $250, including $100 in DoorDash credits. Order this Saturday, keep the streak alive, and fuel your game day only with DoorDash. Terms apply. Welcome back to the Locked On Cowboys podcast. We'd like to thank you for making us your first listen of the day. Landon, let's talk about this Cowboys offense, and we should at least start with mentioning Boogeyman. Is that too strong? Mike Parsons here. How do the Cowboys limit the impact of Micah Parsons on Sunday?
Yeah, so it's all part of the overall game plan that they're going to have to figure out, a path to victory that they're going to have to work towards. And there's 3 kind of key things that we've identified. They need to possess the ball. The name of the game is possessing the ball, holding onto the ball, converting first down, staying on schedule, making sure that you're continuously keeping long drives. You want to create as many long scoring drives as possible to not only because that will keep the ball away from the Green Bay Packers offense, which more importantly, keep your defense on the bench. But I think the long scoring drives usually are indications of successful run game. I think you need to be able to mix things up against this Green Bay defense in order to keep Micah Parsons off the field. And I think the first thing you need to do is find a way to win first down. Right. That's going to be the kind of first thing. We'll talk about second down here in a second. But to me, you got to get to a situation. The Green Bay defense has been fantastic on first down. They're having a plus 62% success rate on both passing and running. So the Cowboys have got to find a way to kind of break through and at least get positive gains on first down. And they have to keep out of 3rd and long situations. That's the whole name of this, is avoiding the Micah Parsons problem by limiting opportunities of obvious passing downs. We can talk about second downs in a bit, but I wanted to hear a little bit what your thoughts are.
I think they need to control the clock, right? That's the big thing for me, is you want to put together these 8 and 9 minute drives that just limit the number of possessions, right? But I feel like Green Bay is one of the league's best first down run defenses, and they're going to probably run blitz. So that's where it's almost like, does Shoddy try to do a lot of like these short underneath passes to Jake Ferguson, like we've seen over the last couple of weeks? Do we try to see more of like the screen game? Like, because the goal, you don't need to try to hit big plays on first down. You just want to get those 6-yard plays that get you to 2nd and 4. So then you can run the ball. And hey, if you get into 3rd and 1, that's fine. Get to 3rd and 1, 4th and 1, you're okay. There's got to be a balance, right? You can't go 90% first down runs, but you've got to be aggressive and you can't live in your fears either.
Yeah, no, I mean, success rate for that first down defense is tough on both sides, right? Passing and running. So I think you're gonna need to mix it up, obviously. And I think that mixing in pass and the issue is that I think at times they've gotten a little too tricky on first downs, and this is not a team that you don't want to run like a trick play or a long developing screen or a reverse that could potentially have a big loss.
No, I
you
think
got to be efficient on first down.
And
right?
the other thing I would like to see is this Green Bay defense is incredibly fast. They fly to the football.
Yes.
And I think one of the things we saw too much last week is on first down, it's a lot of things that are going to the sideline. Like it's the play action boots to Jake Ferguson, and it's a lot of that kind of stuff. I don't think you can do that in this game. I think it's got to be more of the Y stick with Ferguson, where he goes up the field 6 yards, turns around, or breaks to the outside, and the ball's coming out on a 5-step drop or a 3-step drop. That's how you beat Green Bay, not trying to beat them to the edge.
Yeah, first down, it's run game and then quick game stuff, right? Efficient, quick game, easy completions.
But up the field.
But up the field. Yeah, not getting like horizontal to try to like throw like a screen out to CD on the edge, or no, I guess not CD, but Pickens on the edge,
or whoever.
Yeah, so I agree. The key here to me is going to be second down, right? Because second down is where you can attack this Green Bay defense, and I've narrowed it down to where exactly and how exactly you want to get them. They are significantly less successful versus the pass on second down. Right now, they have an overall pass success rate on defense of 60.6%. That number drops down to 45.2% on second downs. If you filter out just play action passes, their success rate drops to 30%. Now, the other aspect we've talked about is with the Micah Parsons situations, you're going to want to have a lot of help on the edges, which is something that you want to do probably to run in the run game anyways, because of the personnel matchups that you're going to get. If you play action pass out of 12 personnel on second down, the Packers have a 16.7% success rate. You can make money on that. If you can get 12 personnel out there and throw the football, and then get yourself into, this is the ultimate goal, get yourself into third and short enough that you can convert that third down by running the football as opposed to having to pass the football. You can have success moving moving the football, keep the ball away from the Green Bay offense, and at least minimize as much as you can the Micah Parsons situation.
And that's going to be the game, right? Like, can you create big plays down the field? I don't envision the Cowboys trying to take very many shots just because of the state of the offensive line and more CeeDee Lamb. So it's probably going to be 2 or 3 times. You've got to connect on them, and you've got to get chunk plays. The other thing is you are not the more talented team. Don't beat yourself, and that's the worry when you have guys out there, TJ Bass and Brock Hoffman, even though they started a lot of games in the league, you can't have penalties. You can't have false starts. You can't have your receiver not lining up on the line of scrimmage. Like, it's all the little things, because, you could have a really successful first down play. You get, 5 yards, and then you get a false start, and it's back to 2nd and 10. You are going to get crushed in this game if you make those kind of mental mistakes. So if you get called for holding, you get called for holding. It's not a big deal, but the mental mistakes have got to be kept to a minimum.
One thing, lastly, before we go, that's even more of a reason why you should do quick game stuff on first down, right? Less chance of a holding call if you're not asking the guys to hold up quickly. Boom, 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 get the ball out quickly. Yeah. Less opportunity for penalties as well.
And one more thing, they've got to have success running the ball. We've talked about this, but the way to keep this game close is just to try to grind them out and turn this game, really speed it up where it's 9:15 here on the East Coast and we're down to the 2-minute warning. Like that, you want a fast game, because if you try to get into a shootout, as good as the Cowboys offense is, their defense is not good enough to stop Green Bay. So you've got to get it where it's each team had 3 possessions in the first half, and hey, we're going to halftime and it's a 13-10 type of game.
Possess the ball, stay on schedule, avoid any obvious passing situations. And if you could score while doing all that, then you may have an opportunity to win this game.
Yeah. All right. Let's give our predictions for this Packers-Cowboys Sunday Night Football showdown. We will get to that next. This episode is brought to you by Mazda. Mazda crafts cars for those who do more than simply move. Mazda delivers confidence with every ride, with more IIHS top safety pick awards than anyone else. From footwork to breath work, athletes sweat all the details, and Mazda brings the same intention to how they craft every single model. You can feel the Japanese craftsmanship in every detail, from metallic accents to available Napa leather upholstery. You can make your everyday drives feel like anything but, with their smooth handling and incredible controls. And with all-wheel drive standard in every crossover SUV, you can drive with confidence through almost any season. I know where I live, you absolutely have to have all-wheel drive, and that is where Mazda delivers. And like our players, we sweat every detail, because when you make every move count, impossible becomes irrelevant. Mazda, move and be moved. Welcome back to the Locked On Cowboys podcast. We'd like to thank you for making us your first listen of the day. For your second listen, check out the Locked On NFL podcast. 2 shows every single day, 1 in the morning with Tyler Rowland, 1 in the afternoon with Tony Wiggins, available wherever you get your podcasts. All right, Landon, one thing before we get into predictions here for this week 4 matchup. Was talking with Peter Bukowski with Locked On Packers. Go check out that episode if you missed it. It was on Thursday.
Bless you, Marcus.
Yeah, I know.
That must have been fun.
A lot of good comments about that episode, so please check it out. One of the things that Peter mentioned is that Rich Bisaccia, who is the Packers special teams coach, used to be with the Cowboys. His units have been very poor, and honestly, they lost a game last week they had no business losing because their special teams units weren't very good. And we say this every week. This is one of the big advantages the Cowboys have between Brandon Aubrey, Cavante Turpin, and their kickoff units. They've got to steal either a possession or have a big kickoff or pin Green Bay deep if they're going to want to win this game.
Yeah, hidden yardage is going to have to be a part of this, because, again, the Cowboys are the less talented team. And you know, I think just to kind of fold this into this last segment here, like, the Cowboys are overmatched here. I mean, I think that's clear. And I think that the paths to victory that they have are very few. So, yeah, special teams is going to definitely need to be a part of this if the Cowboys are going to try to win this game for sure.
All right, so let's give our predictions. Who do you got winning?
I mean, there's a reason that we had to have this episode framed the way it is, because there's not a lot of opportunity, not a lot of chances for the Cowboys because of injuries, because of the mismatch aspect of it, because of the way the team has been playing, obviously. So I definitely am picking the Packers this week. Unfortunately, I do think that everything that we've laid out is a realistic path to victory. The Cowboys are playing at home. There is certainly a way that things could fall the right way for the Cowboys, and they steal a victory from a still young quarterback who's, still can be a high variance guy at sometimes. And I think there are some, mismatches that the Cowboys can take advantage of. But the sheer volume of, like we said, paths to victory for Green Bay is large. And so I have to just kind of play the numbers here to a large degree and pick the Packers to win.
I will say, Peter said that there's probably more pressure on the Packers in this game than Dallas. And honestly, I agree with that, because Green Bay is coming off a really bad loss to Cleveland. They just saw the Lions go into Baltimore and destroy them. Minnesota looked fantastic the last 2 games, right? And then Chicago obviously won, last week. And they've invested so much into really these next 2 years that they've got to go out and try to get that number 1 seed. It's so important to them to get it because of their home field advantage. If you drop this game, a game where you're favored, on the road by 7 points, now we're having a different conversation about Green Bay.
Without a doubt. Here's the other part of it too, is what are the conversations around Green Bay going to be like if Dallas beats Green Bay?
That's what I'm saying. Like there's a lot of truthfully, this is a much bigger game for Green Bay than it is Dallas. Sure. And I know Dallas will fall to 1-3 if they don't win this game. But Green Bay, with how expensive that roster is, if they're 2-2 after this, the start that they had, big deal. Having said all that,
they're on different tracks. Like these two teams, the expectations are different.
Having said that, I'm taking the Packers -7 or whatever the line is. There's part of me that wants to believe that this game is going to be close and that the public is going to be just hammering Packers -7, and maybe this game is closer than what most people expect. But I could also see this really rolling downhill for Dallas, in a bad way, where you get behind 14-0 and now you're in a drop back game. And that's how Micah Parsons has kind of made his living with the Cowboys before, is you get in these games where you have to throw the ball and you've got no chance.
Yeah, they got to keep it close early. They got to find a way to keep it a ball game into the fourth quarter, and then they'll have a chance. If they can get into the fourth quarter and this game is like within a score, and they're moving the ball, I think that they have a chance just because of all the special teams aspect, the quarterbacks, who Dak Prescott is. They'll have a chance, but it's going to be extremely difficult for them to get to that fourth quarter within what touchdown.
Last thing before we go.
Yeah.
What is the reaction going to be when Micah Parsons is like announced, or, he takes the field for the first time? Well, how do you think Cowboy fans are going to handle that?
Mina Kimes came out and tweeted today that she thinks that, she understands who Cowboys fans blame for this. And I'm not so certain, like I felt like for sure that this was going to be a situation where everyone would be against Jerry because everyone's been against Jerry. And rightfully so, I'm not defending it, but it just, obviously it felt like, Jerry would take the brunt of it, even if the it was, some of it was Micah Parsons' fault. And I don't think that's the case. I think a lot of Cowboys fans are kind of upset with Micah and the way he handled it. And he lied to some folks as well by saying that he didn't care about the money. He wanted to stay with the Cowboys, ends up requesting for a trade. So I think folks don't feel quite the way that other people outside of the Dallas and the organization think that they do.
It's going to be a very weird environment on Sunday night in AT&T Stadium. I'm looking forward to the game. Can't wait to watch it. We want to thank you guys for making Locked On Cowboys your first listen every single day. Check out the channel on YouTube. Download the podcast wherever you get your podcasts. We are free and available on all platforms. Follow Landon on Twitter at McCoolBCB. I'm at Marcus_Mosher. Enjoy Sunday Night Football, and we'll see you guys right back here after the game.